The High Court in Cape Town hearing an urgent application to halt a VAT increase brought by the Democratic Alliance as well as the Economic Freedom Fighters, both parties challenging the legality as well as constitutionality of the hike announced as part of the revised fiscal framework. South African Institute of Tax Professionals Chief Executive Officer Engel joins us now to have this discussion further. Prof, good evening to you and thank you so much for your time. The Minister in his argument says that Section 7.4 of the VAT Act empowers him to make a temporary VAT rate adjustment at the time of the annual budget. So, is this case simply a waste of time, or is the matter something the court should be hearing?
Well, the issue is the constitutionality of it. So the provision that he's referring to is Section 7.4. 7.4 of the VAT Act was added in 2016 and added in 2017. And it says the minister is empowered to raise the VAT subject to parliamentary approval. Now, the question is, what does subject to mean? So is it, if the minister raises it and they reject it, does it go back down? Or does it mean that if the parliament rejects it, then that they should never put one in the first place? So there's a legal problem there. The second one, is it constitutional for the minister to propose a VAT increase and impose it by himself? Now, that's the real issue that's there. And the difficulty is that this has never been challenged before, even though this provision has been around for quite some time.
And I'm interested to know then, how does it play out? Because when you read his affidavit, for example, he says that it's a fact that he contends with, and he opposes that the fiscal framework was, the process was flawed. And he says that the fiscal framework is not legislation, nor does it impose taxes, while the DA is saying that Parliament erred in the adoption of this framework, the EFF as well, saying that when you look at the process that unfolded there, it does seem to have had then some problems. So how does it all then play out?
Well, here, let me say the problem is this. We've got to go back. People are going right in the middle. So here again, there's a provision, there's a number of these provisions in the Act, in the various acts, in the Income Tax, the VAT Act, and other acts, which empowers the minister to raise rates. And he's empowered to make these changes effective with budget announcement. Now, no one has ever challenged those because the minister has been part of the majority party, and the majority party has always adopted whatever the minister wanted. So this is the first time we're now fighting with these provisions because now the minister may or may not get it through. So the question was it constitutional in the first place to have these provisions there? Maybe it was. But then the second thing is it constitutional for the minister to make it and put this increase in with the possibility it may not be passed? Now, the action that happened back with the framework is showing that it's probably going to be passed, so it weakens the DA's argument quite considerably. So as a legal matter, it's definitely a foot fault here. And where we are, it's funny because it's the legislative process confused. But technically, the framework doesn't have anything to do with it. It's Section 7.4 of the VAT Act allows the minister to make that announcement even before a framework is discussed. The question is whether it's constitutional.
So, Prof, then I wonder, should South Africans then hold their breath that the court may rule in favor of the political parties? And I ask this because when you listen to the EFF's Umpila Mauta, for example, saying that parties who voted with the ANC will realize that, in fact, they were being made fools. And I'm quoting what she said. And she says then that it appears as if the negotiations were always something that should have never happened because the writing was always on the wall. So should these negotiations then have taken place to try and find an alternative here, or was it always a done deal then?
Well, it was not when the minister announces it, he has the power to raise the rates subject to parliamentary approval. Now, if Parliament doesn't approve, the moment they don't approve, the rate is going to go back down. So there's always a negotiation. The question is, if Parliament doesn't approve, do they have to retroactively give the money back? So you always have to negotiate. I think the issue came with the negotiations was that there was a misunderstanding in the negotiations that the DA thought that there was an agreement that the VAT would be studied, not automatically increased. And now the ANC is saying, no, We've said we're going to increase it, but we'll look into possibly doing something else. So I'm not sure if the negotiation was bad, but there was definitely a conflict there, which adds to the confusion. But the real question is, does the minister have that authority under 7.4? And again, we've operated as he's always had, based on the assumption that Parliament would adopt. Now the question is, will Parliament adopt? They've already adopted the framework, whether the DA likes it or not, so that kind of weakens their case in front of the Constitutional Court.
So can we then see this particular case go all the way right up to the apex court, or do you see that this weakening of the argument, as you say, can then just be a matter that ends off in the Western Cape High Court, or can it go higher up?
It can always go higher up because it's a constitutional issue. So it can always go higher up. But by the time you see that, it's going to be months and months away. And then by then, the minister has already acted it in place. And then if the Constitutional Court says it was unacceptable what he did, then they've got to give the money back, which is almost impossible.
Definitely. Let's see then what happens, Prof. Appreciate your time this evening. Quite a lot to get through as far as the story is concerned. That was the South African Institute of Tax Professionals Chief Executive Officer, Professor Keith Engel.